picture this scenario for a second.
Right.
It is 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night.
Right.
You're lying on your couch. The blue light of your phone is just illuminating your face, and your thumb is hovering over a screen. You know, you are swiping
Yeah, we've all been there.
left, left, maybe right, left again. You are staring at this endless conveyor belt of potential romantic partners, yet somehow you have literally never felt more disconnected.
It's exhausting.
It really is. And if you are listening to this right now, you probably know how heavily we try to engineer the unknown out of our lives. Like, you have your career trajectory mapped out on a spreadsheet.
Right. Or you optimize your morning routine for maximum efficiency.
Exactly. We just demand certainty in everything. But
Yeah.
then you step into the arena of romantic relationships, and all those carefully constructed algorithms, they just collapse.
They completely fall apart.
Yeah, I mean, love remains the one massive, glaring variable that consistently defies our calendars.
Well, it is the ultimate blind spot in our, hyper-optimized modern existence. You can strategize a promotion or, use software to find the absolute cheapest flight to Tokyo.
Right.
But you cannot schedule a genuine, life-altering romantic connection. And because it remains so fiercely unpredictable, it has always been one of humanity's deepest anxieties.
And our greatest mystery, honestly.
Exactly. We've spent centuries devising frameworks to solve the puzzle of romantic destiny. We are constantly trying to peek around the corner of time.
We really have. So today, we are bringing you, the listener, along on this really fascinating journey into how that ancient desire is colliding with modern technology.
It's a very unique intersection.
It totally is. We've pulled together a massive stack of sources for today's deep dive. We are looking at sociological studies on dating app burnout, cognitive psychology papers on how our brains process visual stimuli, and this is the wildest part, a captivating profile on a rising phenomenon called Tina Aldea Psychic Artist.
Yeah, the market for custom soulmate artwork is just exploding right now.
Right. And we aren't just looking at the surface novelty of getting a psychic sketch done. Our mission today is to figure out the why. Like, why are human beings so incredibly captivated by the idea of seeing a visual representation of their future romantic partner before they even meet them?
There's a lot to unpack psychologically there.
There is. We are going to explore the mechanics of modern dating fatigue, the neurology of hope, and our seemingly insatiable desire for a personalized future.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to understand why someone in the 21st century wants a bespoke drawing of their soulmate, we actually have to look backward first.
Right, yeah.
We are dealing with a deeply ingrained cultural mythos, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely. We are dealing with an archetype that predates modern civilization entirely. I mean, the concept of the soulmate is far from a contemporary internet trend.
Yeah.
If you look across countless cultures, traditions, and historical epochs, the interpretations definitely shift. But the core architecture of the idea is remarkably consistent.
Like going all the way back to Plato, right? Exactly. From Plato's Symposium, which proposed that humans were originally whole beings split in two by the gods forever wandering the earth, searching for their other half to various Eastern philosophies regarding karmic ties.
Wow, right.
There is just this fundamental human belief that a parallel complementary force exists out there for us.
And according to our sources, people are approaching this from wildly different angles today. Like, some adopt a highly spiritual, almost deterministic lens. They believe this is a cosmic destiny mapped out in the star before birth.
Yes, very esoteric.
But others approach it purely through a secular symbolic lens. To them, the soulmate isn't magic. It's simply a psychological shorthand for finding that one individual who offers total unconditional understanding.
They're essentially looking for a neurological safe harbor.
Right.
But regardless of the specific belief system someone subscribes to, the utility of that idea is identical. The possibility of finding a deeply meaningful, effortless connection, it acts as this powerful psychological motive.
It drives everything.
Yeah, it's the engine driving our literature, our cinema, and, a multi-billion-dollar romance industry. People inherently want to believe that their suffering or loneliness is temporary and that a grand resolution awaits them.
But the friction happens when that grand, ancient, romantic ideal crashes into the incredibly sterile reality of modern dating. I mean, our sociological sources paint a pretty grim picture of the current landscape.
They really do.
We're dealing with the paradox of choice on steroids here. Dating apps bombard users with a mathematically impossible number of choices.
Right, it's just overwhelming.
Add in our hyper-busy, constantly connected lifestyles that leave zero bandwidth for slow-burn romance. And the result is chronic, measurable burnout.
People are experiencing actual cognitive depletion.
Yes, from repeatedly investing emotional energy into micro-interactions that go literally nowhere.
Yeah.
So I have to challenge the premise a bit here.
Okay, go for it.
When we talk about people turning to astrology charts, compatibility readings, or commissioning a psychic sketch of their future spouse, we aren't really talking about romance, are we?
What do you mean?
I mean, we try to schedule our lives down to the minute, right? But love is the one variable that constantly defies the calendar. Are these services just a modern mechanism to assert control over a terrifyingly uncontrollable variable?
Well, what's fascinating here is that it goes much deeper than a simple desire for control. Control implies rigidity, and attempts to force an outcome.
Right.
What the psychological data suggests is that people are actually seeking comfort through cognitive anchoring. Human beings possess this really unique evolutionary trait. We spend a massive amount of our waking hours simulating the future.
Oh, totally. Just daydreaming or worrying.
Exactly. We run mental scenarios to prepare ourselves for threats, but also to soothe ourselves. When a specific domain of life, like romance, becomes fraught with repeated rejection and ambiguity, that ambiguity registers in the brain as a low-grade threat.
It triggers an anxiety response because the brain hates an open loop.
It despises an open loop. So, obtaining a glimpse into the future, even a highly symbolic or intuitive one, closes that loop momentarily.
Oh, wow. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it makes the vast, terrifying expanse of the unknown feel tangible. In an era dominated by endless digital choices where the next best thing is always like one swipe away, hope transforms from an abstract feeling into an incredibly scarce, valuable currency.
So you really have to work to maintain it.
Right. When you are suffering from swiping fatigue, maintaining a positive outlook requires active effort. Engaging with a psychic artist or getting a compatibility reading is essentially an investment in psychological buoyancy.
That completely reframes the entire concept. It is less about dictating the future and more about surviving the present dating landscape with your optimism actually intact.
Exactly.
But that naturally makes you wonder about the medium itself. Here's where it gets really interesting. Why artwork?
Yeah, it's a very specific medium.
Like, if someone wants a psychic prediction or intuitive guidance about their love life, why not just read a horoscope? Why not get a written paragraph saying you'll meet someone tall with kind eyes and a sarcastic sense of humor? Why commission a visual artist?
It comes down to how we process information.
Right, because I was reading about the reticular activating system in our psychology sources, and it seems like there is a huge neurological difference between reading a sentence and looking at a face.
Oh, the neurological difference is monumental. When you read a text description, your brain processes that information analytically, primarily using the prefrontal cortex. It is a logical decoding process.
Right, like translating symbols.
Exactly. You read kind eyes, and your brain categorizes the concept. But visual processing is entirely different. Images bypass those analytical filters and travel almost instantly to the amygdala and the emotional centers of the brain.
Wow.
Psychologists and neuroscientists have long documented the sheer emotional power of visualization. Think about high-performance environments.
Olympic athletes are the classic example of this.
Right.
Like, a gymnast doesn't just read a list of moves before a routine. They close their eyes and visually simulate the exact physics of the vault. The feeling of the mat, the rotation in the air.
And they are firing the same neural pathways during the visualization as they do during the actual physical event.
That is wild.
It is. Entrepreneurs imagine the specific architecture of their future offices. Writers visualize holding the physical weight of their published book. When you apply this proven psychological mechanism to romance, visualizing an ideal relationship encourages a profound cognitive shift.
So you stop focusing on what you don't have.
Yes. Instead of fixating on the absence of a partner, the brain begins to actively map the presence of one.
It is essentially a targeted vision board for your love life. But I have to play devil's advocate here for a second because this is where my logic hits a speed bump.
Okay, let's hear it.
Doesn't locking your brain onto one specific drawn face actually limit your imagination and your real-world opportunities?
How so?
Like, if I commission a sketch and stick it on my refrigerator and the drawing shows a guy with a strong jawline and wavy hair, aren't I going to walk into a coffee shop and completely ignore the amazing compatible guy sitting in the corner just because he happens to be bald?
Right, right.
What if you miss a great connection because they don't match the rendering?
Well, that assumes the recipient is treating the artwork as a literal forensic blueprint.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what our source material and, reputable artists in this space caution against.
Oh, okay. So it's not a wanted poster.
No, not at all. The utility of the artwork isn't in rigid certainty, it is in symbolic resonance. When you look at a portrait, your brain doesn't just register the physical geometry of a jawline or a hairstyle.
Right.
It registers expression, warmth, and energy. It shifts the viewer's focus away from their own loneliness and redirects it toward the positive emotional qualities they want to cultivate in a shared life.
Okay, so the artwork acts as an imaginative prompt. It forces you to ask narrative questions, like what kind of personality does this expression suggest? How would we communicate? What kind of shared life does this face belong in?
Yes, and those narrative questions are expansive. They pull the individual out of a state of passive waiting and into a state of active emotional preparation.
That's a great way to put it.
It becomes this exercise in personal growth, brilliantly disguised as a portrait. When we visualize a warm, loving presence, we often begin to embody those traits ourselves. We become more open, more communicative.
Right, because your mindset shifts.
Exactly. So even if we view the sketch entirely through a secular psychological lens, that visualization is a highly effective tool for changing one's own behavioral patterns.
So we are talking about utilizing an external image to trigger an internal transformation. But there is a macro layer to this trend that feels like distinctly tied to our current decade.
Oh, definitely.
We have established the ancient desire for connection and the underlying neurological power of visualizing it. But how this specific service custom Soulmate artwork is delivered, it just fits perfectly into modern consumer behavior.
It really does.
Because we're living in the golden age of hyper-personalization.
Well, the digital economy has completely rewired our baseline expectations for how we interact with the world, and by extension, how we interact with meaning-making.
Totally. Just think about the algorithms that govern our days. We expect our streaming services to perfectly predict our movie tastes down to the most obscure subgenre.
Right, or Spotify.
Exactly. We get personalized music playlists delivered every Monday that feel like they read our minds. Our fitness apps tailor workouts to our real-time biometrics. We have been conditioned to believe that a mass-produced experience is an inferior experience.
We want everything custom built for us.
So naturally, it makes total sense that we now expect our spirituality, our self-discovery, and our romantic destiny to be just as custom-tailored.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we're witnessing a massive sociological pivot. Over the past 10 to 15 years, we have seen a noticeable decline in traditional, institutional religious participation.
Right, attendance is way down.
But we've seen a simultaneous explosive boom in individualized spiritual practices. People are diving into astrology apps that map their exact birth minute. They are pulling daily tarot cards, they are engaging in complex manifestation routines, and exploring energy healing.
Yeah, it's everywhere now.
And notice the common denominator in all of those practices.
They are completely decentralized and entirely focused on the individual's unique narrative. It is not a one-size-fits-all sermon from a pulpit. It is my birth chart, my intuitive reading, my personalized energy field.
Exactly.
We have basically created a bespoke spirituality economy.
That phrasing captures it perfectly.
Yeah.
The bespoke spirituality economy thrives because it validates the individual. For a significant portion of the population, these are expressions of deeply held, profound metaphysical beliefs.
Right.
But for others, they are simply creative, reflective tools that foster self-awareness. Both groups, though, place a premium on experiences that acknowledge their unique trajectory.
Right, they want to feel seen.
Exactly. A personalized soulmate sketch sits squarely at the intersection of this cultural shift. You aren't receiving a generic column of dating advice telling you to be yourself.
Which is the worst advice ever, by the way.
It really is. Instead, you are receiving a unique, tangible artifact generated specifically for your unique romantic timeline.
Which brings us out of the theoretical and into the practical execution of this concept. Let's look closely at the specific service highlighted in our source material. Tina Aldea Psychic Artist.
Okay.
How does a service like this actually function on a day-to-day basis? And more importantly, how are people integrating this into their lives without falling into the trap of magical thinking?
Well, what distinguishes a service like Tina Aldea Psychic Artist within this incredibly crowded spiritual marketplace is the specific synthesis of intuitive guidance with tangible artistic skill.
Right.
According to the profile, the process isn't just about drawing a random attractive face. It involves tuning into the client's energetic frequency, performing an intuitive reading,
Yeah.
and then translating those abstract impressions, feelings, and symbolic energies into a visual medium.
Right. Our sources emphasize that the resulting sketch is intended to capture the essence of a potential soulmate.
Exactly, the essence. Like, it might highlight a feeling of quiet strength or a vibrant, chaotic creativity. It takes this incredibly nebulous, abstract concept of the person I'm supposed to end up with and grounds it in something you can actually look at, hold, and interact with on a daily basis.
But navigating that interaction requires psychological maturity. The source material is remarkably clear about managing expectations.
Yeah, they don't want people getting obsessed.
Right. A healthy engagement with psychic art requires understanding its boundaries. No artwork, regardless of how intuitively attuned the artist might be, can objectively guarantee a specific future outcome.
Of course.
It is not a contract, and it cannot bypass the reality of free will.
Right. It's not a magical cheat code to skip the hard parts of dating.
Precisely the opposite. It should never be utilized as a tool for verifying future events or avoiding necessary personal development. The healthiest way to integrate this experience is to view it as a catalyst for reflection. So what does this all mean? If the artwork isn't a guaranteed blueprint, and it isn't a literal map to your future spouse's doorstep, what is the actual value being delivered to the consumer?
It's all about the psychological shift.
Yeah, based on the psychology we've covered, it seems to me that the real product being sold isn't the graphite on the paper at all. The real product is the permission it grants the recipient to feel excited and vulnerable about love again.
That is the core revelation of this entire phenomenon. When you read the testimonials and accounts of people who utilize these services, they rarely focus purely on the aesthetic quality of the sketch.
Right. They talk about how it made them feel.
They talk about the internal shift. The value is rooted in the moment of reflection. The process of commissioning the art, waiting for it, and finally viewing it creates a dedicated space for someone to actively ponder their own relationship goals.
It's like an emotional reset button. It interrupts the negative feedback loop. Instead of opening a dating app with a knot of dread in your stomach, assuming every conversation will just fizzle out, you approach your interactions with a renewed sense of curiosity.
Exactly.
Even individuals who are highly skeptical of psychic phenomena, who approach the service purely as a unique novelty art commission, often find themselves deeply moved by the process simply because of the optimism it unlocks within their own minds.
This raises an important question, however, about the mechanics of building a life with another person.
What's that?
While a personalized sketch can provide a beautiful spark of inspiration and foster a healthier dating mindset, the architecture of a lasting partnership remains unchanged.
Right.
A drawing can inspire you to open the door, but it cannot build the house. The foundation of a long-term relationship still relies on the unglamorous, everyday realities of mutual effort.
You still have to engage in the messy, complicated reality of human interaction. The artwork doesn't excuse you from learning how to communicate your needs or how to compromise.
Exactly. A soulmate sketch might remind you of the kind of energy you were looking for, but maintaining a connection with a living, breathing human being requires vulnerability, active listening, and trust.
Yeah, it takes work.
It does. The artwork serves as a reminder to keep your heart open, but it is the individual's responsibility to cultivate the emotional maturity necessary to sustain the relationship once that person actually arrives.
It is the catalyst, not the conclusion. I think that is a vital distinction.
Completely agree.
So let's zoom out and look at the fascinating territory we have covered today. We started by examining the sheer cognitive fatigue of the modern dating landscape. You know, the endless algorithmic swiping, the paradox of choice, and the burnout that comes from treating human connection like a highly optimized shopping experience.
Right.
And then we contrasted that modern exhaustion with our ancient, deeply ingrained desire to find a complementary soulmate. We unpacked the profound neurological mechanisms of visualization, exploring how the brain processes imagery differently than text, bypassing analytical skepticism to trigger deep emotional resonance and hope.
It's a very powerful tool.
It really is. And we explored how custom, personalized psychic art, like the services offered by Tina Aldea, sits perfectly at the intersection of these forces. It bridges our timeless desire for a grand romantic narrative with our very modern expectation for a bespoke, individualized spiritual experience.
It acts as a fascinating mirror for our culture. It demonstrates that while the technology and the mediums we use to search for love are constantly evolving, the underlying psychological need to feel seen, understood, and hopeful about the future remains entirely unchanged.
We are just finding new ways to do it.
We're simply finding new, highly personalized ways to interact with the unknown.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to you, listening to this right now, whether you consider yourself a staunch, data-driven skeptic who views this purely through the lens of cognitive behavioral therapy, or a hopeless romantic waiting for a cinematic meet-cute, or even a dedicated spiritual seeker relying on intuitive guidance, this deep dive reveals something quite profound about your own architecture.
It really highlights our shared humanity.
It does. It highlights your fundamental human need for optimism. It shows the incredible lengths we will go to and the tools we will invent just to feel a sense of connection and to maintain the belief that our future holds someone deeply meaningful for us.
I want to leave you with a final concept to mull over, one that builds on everything we have discussed regarding the neurology of visualization and the power of perception.
Okay, lay it on us.
We have established that a piece of soulmate artwork can radically alter your mindset. But consider the ripple effects of that alteration. If looking at a sketch of a potential soulmate makes you feel significantly more optimistic, more open, more communicative, and more confident when you walk into a crowded room,
Right.
does the artwork actually predict your romantic future? Or does that profound internal change in your own behavior actually create it?
Wow, that is the ultimate question. If you change the lens through which you view the world tends to change with it. The map of our romantic lives might be unpredictable, but maybe we hold a lot more power in drawing it than we ever realized. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and we will see you on the next deep dive.